on there.
Yeah, I just thought, wait, why does that doll have legs now?
Brett was actually posting in chat from the friend zone about that.
Huh. Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
We accepted a challenge for Ben to talk about good equipment for streaming from home.
Yeah.
And not necessarily the cheapest, but cost effective.
Yeah, like on a budget.
Yeah.
So if you are a budding streamer and you wanna start getting into the streaming game and stuff like that, there's a couple of things that I'll give you in terms of equipment. What?
I bumped my funny bone on Peach's knee.
Ooh. Don't do that. That's step number one.
Yeah.
You want to be a good streamer.
Step zero.
Step zero. One thing that I will say is one of the most important parts, I think, of streaming is having good audio. And I mean, obviously I'm a little bit biased on it, but personally I think if you can have, if you're gonna focus like your budget on one thing, get yourself a nice microphone. Whether that be a headset, I usually recommend getting something like a Rode Video Micro. That's like a nice cheap microphone that if you also want to do something like, say, get into vlogging, that, for example, is the microphone that we use for like all of the loading times and stuff like that. But it can also be repurposed for your computer. It plugs in with just your standard 1/8" cord, like the same thing you would use on your headphones. Yeah, that's a really, really good entry-level one. And then if you want to move up in that sort of realm, I know the industry standard that a lot of people will tell you is get a Yeti. If you can bypass the Yeti, do it. It's a fine mic, but if you can get an XLR based setup as opposed to a USB based setup, it will be so much better for you. Invest in this is funny because I use a Yeti, but I hate how my microphone sounds. But get yourself a USB audio interface. They're like, I mean, a cheap one you could find for like $80. And that enables you, it plugs in with USB to your computer, but you can plug in an XLR and you can monitor and all that.
You don't need a full mixer.
No.
At this point.
No, just get yourself, we're literally using it back there. It's just a USB interface. They're nice and cheap. Yeah, they're great. But if you're, but that's less so on, yeah, even if you want to move to an SM58. I don't love SM58s for streaming because you have to sort of get right up on them to get that,
This is my experience.
Yeah.
SM58 right here, and I have to get up onto it.
Yeah, you want a mic that has a cardioid pattern that does not, you don't have to pump the gain too high on it. But yeah, if you just want a nice, easy startup mic, I recommend getting a Rode Video Micro. Super, super easy. Camera-wise, get yourself, I mean, cameras are honestly the least expensive part of it. Now, I mean, that's saying, that $150 is like cheap, and that's for differing views of it. But I would also like to state that you do not need to have a mic or a camera if you're just starting. Because one of the big things about starting streaming is getting comfortable talking to people, interacting, and doing what you're doing on there. There's actually a person that I started following on Twitter who I'm totally blanking on her name, but her whole streaming thing is teaching people to be better streamers and following streaming metas. What is getting people viewers and all that kind of jazz.
Interesting.
And the number one thing that she's said lately in the meta is streamers who do like just chatting and stuff like that in the tags, and they spend like a good 20 to 25 minutes talking to their viewers and then getting into the game.
Okay.
Are getting.
Well, I know James does that.
Yeah, they're getting a lot more because people. The fact of the matter is, a lot of people are tuning in to watch people, to watch the streamer.
Right.
Not necessarily what game they're playing. And there are obviously people who do that. I'm sure a lot of people will watch like a professional gamer because they want to get better at the game, right? But for a number of people, they're acting as personalities, kind of a thing. So basically, this is a big loop around for me saying a camera is great. I recommend getting one that like one of the Logitech 1080p guys, but that's something that you can build up to. Really just focus on getting a good, clear, crisp audio for yourself, and if that means getting a video micro and having an armature, it's super helpful. Familiarize yourself with whatever streaming program you're using. I use Streamlabs OBS, which is really nice because it gets you access to all those cool, notification things that you'll see on streams and whatnot. And it's all built right in there. Yeah, I mean, you can get all this equipment and still not get that viewership that you're looking for. And the fact of the matter is, streaming kind of comes down to what you're doing and what you're presenting to somebody, in my opinion. Because you'll see people like, I've seen Freddie Prinze Jr. like go on to Twitch, and he's got like, what looks like a cell phone camera pointed at him, and he's just sitting in like a hotel playing like GTA, and get like thousands and thousands and thousands of viewers, right? So like, while having a nice setup is really great, it's focusing on you as a performer, because at the end of the day, that's what this is. It's a performance.
Yeah, like also the advice that we always seem to give is that audio is far more important than video.
Yes.
Poor video, your brain can kind of like ignore it, but bad audio ruins your life.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Like if there's a lot of static, or if the volume isn't good, then it quickly becomes unwatchable.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, obviously having a pretty stable internet is pretty important to the thing. So I guess, yeah, if I could say two things that you want to do the investment in: one, get a decent microphone; two, have a decent internet.
Yeah.
Because the difference between watching somebody's compressed 480 stream and watching somebody's 1080 stream at like 30 or 60 frames is a pretty huge leap. So, yeah.
Also, you've mentioned a cardioid.
Yes.
Could you? Would it be all right? Could I ask?
Yeah. So
that,
it basically sort of refers to the pickup pattern of a microphone. So if you're dealing with typically a cardioid pattern is kind of like, it kind of shoots out like sort of in a cone.
Right. Cardioid is heart shaped.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Heart shaped is a perfect way to describe it. And you'll also have mics that sort of have an omnidirectional pattern. And those are more typically used for like room kind of shapes. You'll also have like super cardioid, which would be like the shotguns that we use for like booming and stuff like that. And those are more like directly like linked. Because like, for example, I sound probably really nice to this microphone if I'm standing right here. But if I'm standing right here, you probably won't hear it nearly as well because I'm past its pickup pattern, right? So yeah, Bubba just posted a cardioid pattern right there in chat. So look for a microphone that has that. The Yetis actually have, yeah, there you go. And Sean also put one up there, so you can see a 58 right there. Or Sarah put one up. But yeah, you want a microphone that uses a cardioid pickup pattern, because then that way. It's picking up more of you and less of the room that you've got going on. Because, even, myself, I don't have a soundproof room. I stream, just kind of in my kitchen dining area sort of a thing that I've set up for that. But, and I didn't stress, there's nothing wrong inherently with a Yeti mic. But, I have a harder time, I would say it's much easier for you to get an XLR mic and put it through a USB interface, because then you have just access to so many other things like compression and all that kind of jazz, and you don't have to use in-computery types of things.
Like a Yeti is a very good microphone, but it's limited by the USB connection.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
And if you have just a little bit more money to spend, then getting the flexibility offered by an XLR microphone is very valuable, because it allows you to expand so much more.
Yeah, because there are things you can do. There are so many people who have a lot of suggestions with digital drivers that you can install onto your computer that will allow you to run like an audio program in the background that allows you to have like compression and noise cancellation, all that kind of jazz in the background, but that also requires a significant portion of processing power, and I imagine if you're doing a lot of stuff on a budget, you might not have a super strong computer. So if you have an actual piece of hardware outside of your computer that can deal with that stuff, you'll just take a whole load off. Because it's shocking some of the things that take up processing power on your computer. Like Serge and I discovered that Discord, if you're doing a video chat with it, on mine, which is like, I have like, I'd say like an upper mid-tier rig, it was taking like 50 to 60%. Like
When I started streaming, I had an i5 Skylake processor, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
It's a fine consumer grade processor. I could not stream XCOM 2.
yeah.
Because you're trying to get you're basically getting your computer to do double duty. It has to encode, or if you're lucky enough to have a graphics card that can actually do the encoding for you, then the graphics card is now encoding video, but then is also trying to process video for you to play. So you have to. So that's why that's why at the office we have two computers, a streaming and a playing computer, and that makes that complicated even more, because then you have to then you have like capture cards and all that kind of stuff, and it's like so.
And sorry,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say if you know, because Gallows Humor asked like, what if you don't have like an ear for sound and whatnot? There are a million YouTube videos that will show you some pretty standardized techniques that you can use. Like right away, an easy thing that I can teach you about is like I know I just sort of downplayed like in computer processing and stuff like that, but like if you're using OBS, there are a couple of denoiser filters built right into it that you can run to just catch the room noise, and it'll put a nice little noise gate on your mic, and that even just that will do tons, because you'll notice the difference between an open mic that just has catching everything to a mic that's been
Gated slightly?
Yeah, that's been exposed to everything, and gotten what your general tone of your room sounds like. So it's quite helpful.
Green screen or no green screen?
So here's actually the funny thing. More and more streamers are not using green screens nowadays.
I've noticed that.
Yeah, it's really wild. And I'd say it depends on what you plan on doing with your overlay and stuff. I prefer to use a green screen because I also like to do goofy stuff with it, right? But a lot of people are opting to have just like cool backdrops and stuff behind them.
Yep.
But again, like if you're going to do something like that, like I know for example Serge does that, and I think Kate does as well now. Having that built into your overlay takes a little bit more effort as opposed to just having a green screen behind you and just sort of plopping in. But then once you get into green screens, then you have to start looking at lighting and all that kind of jazz. So if you're just starting out, don't worry about the green screen.
Like the green screen is interesting because it really feels like, Shroud doesn't use a green screen. No. Because it feels like you're being invited into his home a bit, and the green screen looks nice, but there's almost a bit more intimacy without the green screen.
Yeah, definitely. And again, it just sort of comes back to the reoccurring statement of like, you can have all this like sweet setup and awesome gear and all that kind of jazz, but it's about the performance at the end of the day, right?
Yep.
So just focus on you as a performer, whatever you're doing, whether that be creative streaming or competitive streaming or just casual fun like variety kind of stuff. When you start streaming, decide what you want out of it. Do you want to do like do you want to build like this really close-knit community? Do you want to be a resource for people to come to when they want to know how to be better at X game or whatever? It's just there's so much flexibility. I recently had to actually explain what Twitch was as a whole. I went on a date with somebody who knew nothing about Twitch, about like any of that kind of stuff, right?
That must have been kind of refreshing.
It was really nice. It was a great date. We had a lot of fun, and then Desert Bus happened, and I haven't been able to see them since. But But it really came down to just sort of saying that you're kind of like, you're just this entertainer,
Right.
Because there's so many facets of what you can do in the streaming world now. It's just this brand new sort of open frontier, and obviously there have been like sort of social metas established with it, but every once in a while something kicks up that people are like, wait, what? Like when social eating became a thing, people were like,
Right.
oh,
That-
huh.
Yeah.
Right? And it just sort of sprang up out of nowhere. And then people started doing just music streams of them playing. Creative became like a very big
Well,
thing, you know?
IRL was it emerged, and now does IRL even exist?
It does.
Okay.
It's big enough to the fact that James and I went for ice cream and IRL streamed. We were ordering ice cream, and I was holding the phone, and the people were like, "Oh, are you guys IRL streaming right now?" And we were like, "Yeah." And they were like, "Oh, hey, chat." And it was
Right.
like, it was wild.
Huh.
Like
Okay.
it's this developing new thing.
Huh.
Bizarre.
Yeah, it's this whole new world, and it's super super exciting. So don't be overwhelmed by if you decide you want to like jump into it and stuff like that. Like it might seem like maybe there's like some sort of oversaturation of the market or anything like that. But at the end of the day, think of every single time where you suddenly discover a new YouTube channel. Right? And you're like, I had no idea this person existed. And they're like, oh, they've been doing this for 4 years. Right? Like, every once in a while, you just sort of experience a whole new part of it. And I really, really recommend just diving in, if at minimum, to maybe do something that's outside of your comfort zone.
But pump the brakes on buying all your stuff for your streaming setup at once.
Yes.
Yeah.
Think about that
Inch
microphone.
into it.
Yeah, think about that microphone. Think about the way to get it into your system.
When I first started streaming, I streamed on a Toshiba laptop that would overheat after 10 minutes, so I had frozen peas underneath it that I switched the bag out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's actually awesome.
Beautiful. That sounds like very early Desert Quest.
Yeah. So,
yeah, go ahead.
And now I'm partnered and all that jazz. So there you go. Hopefully that was a little bit helpful.
Dale, I don't want to pimp you out here, but if you